All right, well, welcome everyone. We are very honored to have you all here today for a lecture on the introduction to Jainism by Professor Samaniji Chaitanya Pragya. She is a visiting professor from Vishwa Bharati University in Lebanon. And she's also the founding director of the Bhagwan Mahavir International Research Center. She's organized many national and international conferences focusing on Jainism. Her interests include Jainology, comparative philosophy, and religion. She teaches Jainism and also has taught Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, and Western philosophy. She focuses on history, epistemology, ethics, conflict, and violence studies. She's interested in scientific and social innovative studies and research focusing on Jainism. She works on conflict resolution theory, nonviolence, and peace studies. And she also hosts the Pragya Meditation Club at FIU. So we're very honored to have a scholar and also a practitioner of Jainism, a very sort of esteemed one, to be our guest lecturer today. And then after Samaniji's lecture for about a half an hour, then we will turn it over to Professor Zohaib Ahmed, who is a professor at the Islamia University in Bahawalpur, will serve as discussant for about 15 minutes. And then we will open it up to questions and answers from the audience, from the students, the people that are in attendance. So we're very honored to have you all join us today. And with that, I will turn it over to Samaniji Chaitanya Pragya.
Would you allow me? Yeah, to share my presentation. Okay.
Yes,
my presentation, for my presentation.
Okay. Your presentation, yes. 1 minute. All right, please go ahead. Thank you.
So thanks for giving this important opportunity to share my ideas on the concept of nonviolence and its need in present time. So just I'm sharing my presentation, and this presentation would have two parts. In the first part, I would explain the concept, the original concept, religious or traditional concept of nonviolence, and then we will try to understand why nonviolence is needed in present time. So nonviolence and Jainism is our topic of discussion today. We have to understand the concept, and the particular term for nonviolence in Jain tradition is Ahimsa, which is quite well known to the whole world. And it is especially known by the name of Mahatma Gandhi, that he worked for nonviolence, and on the basis of nonviolence, he got independence of India. There is voice in background. Okay, so what Ahimsa means? Mostly people understand Ahimsa just non-killing or non-violence, but it has very broad meaning in Jain scriptures. So non-violence, Ahimsa means non-injury, non-harming, non-torturing, not making slave anybody, non-killing, or you can say respect to all living beings, including from micro to macro living beings. It is one of the most important 5 Mahavratas, or you can say small Anuvratas. And Vrat means the vows. They are essential rules and regulations for all Jain ascetics, and especially for the devotees of Jain religion who have great faith in Jain religion and want to follow. They are also supposed to follow non-violence in their day-to-day life and also religiously. Every living being has a soul, and to cause harm to any living being is to commit violence. So we have to understand what is violence. First, we have to be clear about the definition, that if we are harming any living being, whether they are microbes, whether they are higher living beings, all come under the non-violence. Even unintentional violence leaves bad karma on the soul. So according to Jainism, if we are committing any kind of violence, it may be very necessary, it may be unnecessary, but if we are committing any kind of violence, we are getting some bad karmas which are harmful to our inner self. To promote non-violence, one must commit violent actions or have violent thoughts. So it is necessary that how we can be more and more non-violent in our thinking, in our emotions, and in our behavior. In Jainism, if we want to see the society in the social structure, then we would see that the whole Jain community is divided into 4 groups. One is called a sadhu, and one is called a sattvi. The other 2 other groups are Shravak and Shravika. So sadhu means male ascetics, sattvi means female ascetics, Shravak means male householder, and Shravika means female householders. The rules of both the ascetic groups are similar to each other. There is no difference between the male and female religious practices as ascetics. Also, the rules for both the householder groups are similar to each other. So we don't, in Jainism, there is no, what we say, discrimination between the women and men in practice of religion. Theoretically, non-violence is same to all the groups, only the degree of practice increases from householder to ascetics. So we know that householders have some social responsibility, some national responsibility, some needs, desires. So they cannot follow non-violence to extreme limit as the ascetics can. So that's why there is a difference in their practice. What is violence? To understand non-violence in a true sense, we have to understand what is violence. So there are 2 kinds of violence according to Jainism. Just I'm shifting this one. So there are 2 kinds of violence. One is called internal, and the technical term for that is Bahawalpur, and the other one is external, that is Dravya. Internal violence describes violence of thought, thinking, and planning about it. External violence describes the act of violence, committing it physically or verbally. There are also 3 ways of committing violence. One is called intentionally and committed by yourself or ourselves, gating someone to be violent for you or me or for us. That is the second type of violence. And the third is allowing someone to commit violence. If we are supporting someone to kill other human beings or other living beings, then or providing some kind of weapons or giving money for that, so all come under this third category. Now there is another way to understand the concept of violence in Jain tradition. There are another 2 categorization of violence. One is called intentional and other one is called occupational. The technical term for the first is Sankalpa Hinsa and the other one is Arambhi Hinsa. So intentional violence encompasses killing, hunting, animal sacrifices, and harming animals for food. This form of violence is strictly prohibited and a reason why Jains are vegetarian. Occupational violence is something that householders cannot refrain from based on the lifestyle they have to live. So their goal is to minimize the violence. Third is occupational violence can be distinguished in 3 forms. First one is business, which is called Udyami. Second one is called survival, Graharambhi. And the third one is called defense, Virodhi. So in business, we also commit some kind of violence. Suppose if we are doing agriculture, then we are killing so many microbes, so many other living beings which are found in the agricultural process. So we see business can be different of different people. So householders need to have an occupation in order to survive and ensure their family's survival. They should avoid jobs that require them to harm 5 sensitive living beings. So it is supposed that householders have to do some business, and in that business there may be some kind of violence, but they should at least try to avoid those business, those jobs in which someone has to kill 5 sensitive living beings like animals, all different types of animals which we are perceiving in our surrounding. Second is survival. This is a violence done when having a doing, having to doing chores and other domestic activities. So that is also very necessary. If you have to clean your house, if you have to clean your clothes, if you have to cook your food and do other physical things, you are bound to do some kind of violence. Suppose you are using water or plants or anything others. So they are also having some kind of life. So, but we cannot avoid such kind of violence which is necessary for ourselves. One is defense. This type of violence is done when defending one's self, property, other beings, and or their country. So this is also very necessary for a householder, since he has to live in particular country, and he has also duty to save his country or to defend his country, and or his own existence or his family and the existence of his family members or near dear ones or society, whatever is. So that defensive violence is also a necessary part of human beings or social living beings. Once again, we have to be very much clear that householders can't escape these types of violence, but they must ensure that they try to minimize it. How much they can minimize, they have to see according to their situations, their limitations, their necessities of the time. Now we have to see that what can be the general way of human being to control these violent activities in his day-to-day life, and how he can control himself by committing all these kind of different violences, which may be necessary, which may be unnecessary. So there are 5 restraints one must observe when following the teachings of nonviolence. The first one is control of speech. Sometimes people speak in such a way because of that, the violence takes place in the society, in family, in personal relations. Control of thoughts. This is a more serious and more dangerous thing. If we are having some kind of thoughts of violating anything or killing of someone, then we are not killing, physically anyone. Though we are not killing anyone, but since we are thinking, by thinking also we are doing a kind of killing. So thoughts are equally important to be considered, that they are also the means or tools of violence, not just physical action. Regulation of movements. If you are performing any act, you have to be very much conscious that by your act, nobody should be killed or violated. Care in lifting, placing objects. This is also a very simple rule, but most of the time we see that if we are putting something and if there is some ants or any microbes or any other living beings, they might be killed or they may be violated. So we have to be very much careful in lifting or placing any object anywhere. Checking your food and drink before consuming them. So it is also necessary that whenever you are taking any food or drinks, you have to be careful that there should not be any kind of living beings or any microbes or any bacteria which are mixed or having into that kind of food or drinks. So these are very simple practices which we practice. The ascetics are bound to follow these 5 rules strictly, and the householders are also supposed to follow this kind of. So in this video, But there are three ways of committing violence. One is thoughts, emotions, behavior. How we can control and to which extent we can control to be non-violent. The ascetics are following non-violence and what kind of life they are living. Jain ascetics are the symbols of living non-violence. They are trying to follow non-violence to extreme level. Even in dream, they cannot think of killing any living being or hurting any living being. If they saw any kind of such scene, they have to accept that they have committed some kind of such kind of violence in their dreams, and they have to make atonement for that. So you can see that they are walking. They are still walking on barefoot from one village to another village. Okay, and in India we know what is the position of the roads. Though in some of the states the roads are very good, but they are also having damar, and because of that, it is very difficult for the Jain monks and nuns to walk on those in the summertime. So you can see that the ascetics follow the 5 restraints to a grand degree compared to the householders, which we have already discussed, those restraints. And ascetics must be in full control of their thoughts and actions. There are practices that some ascetics follow in order to live a life devoid of violence. And those practices, you can see that they avoid taking food, water, medicine, even at night. So this is also because of the purpose of non-violence, sweeping the path ahead of them. Whenever they are walking, they are sweeping the path, at least to the extent to their height of a body, so that no microbe should be killed because of their stepping. Wear face masks. So they are wearing face masks because it is not because of the corona or COVID or now new variant is coming, Omicron. So they are just wearing face masks because of avoiding violence of life of air. So this is the main reason they are putting this mask. And next is you would see that there are 2 sects in Jainism, or 2 traditions in Jainism. One is Digambar and Shwetambar. So Digambar's monks are avoiding even wearing the necessary clothes. So you are perceiving here the 2 monks. One is Shwetambar and other one is Digambar. Shwetambar wears the white clothes, but they put limited number of clothes for their necessity, and the Digambar avoids completely all different types of clothes, utensils, anything. They don't put any, possess anything. So the whole entire point of these practices is to minimize the violence the ascetics commit in their lives. One of the most extreme practices which we find in Jainism is fasting until death. There are people who can say that fasting yourself to death is a form of violence, but it is considered an act of compassion, since there is no anger or pain involved, or nobody is thinking for dying, or they are not observing this religious death for the purpose of dying soon or giving any kind of pains to body. Concept which is very well known in all Indian traditions, especially in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, and that is called Daya, which Daya means compassion, and compassion for all living beings. That is the main goal of practice of non-violence. So non-violence is the most important aspect of Daya. A non-violent person is filled with compassion and love for all. They are at peace, and in their heart, they are generous, respectful, and full of happiness. They have tolerance for all living beings. So you will see that Daya is given so much importance in Jainism in day-to-day life, and people are compassionate to all living beings. And you can see hundreds of Jain families, they are providing food to animals every day in the morning. because of this concept of compassion. So a violent person has hatred in their heart and mind. They are afflicted with negativity. So those who are observing nonviolence or compassion, they have always positive thinking in their mind, and they are thinking that all people, all living beings have equal right to live, and nobody has power to take life of or right to take life of any other living beings. Okay, it is getting stuck. Once again, I'm sharing. Okay. Okay, so why Jains are so much interested in following non-violence? So there is a spiritual science behind it, why we are so much strict to non-violence. So living a non-violent life puts negative karma on your soul, and living a violent life puts negative karma on your soul, thus keeping you in the cycle of rebirth. So Jainism is more, what we say, based on the religion of salvation. It is always salvation from the karmic bondage, and the main cause of karmic bondage is violence. So how we can be free from this karmic this violence, and thereby we can be free from the karmic bondage and can liberate from this cycle of births and death. A soul free of karma can end the cycle and reach enlightenment. So enlightenment is the prime goal of this human life. And after we are looking for liberation, final liberation, and that's why we are very much conscious about the karma theory. Promoting violence affects the world in a negative way. If one would like to live in a peaceful world, then one should live in a non-violent lifestyle. So it is necessary, if we want to live in peace, it is necessary we have to be respectful to other people also who are nearby or in the world or in society or in any country. Controlling your thoughts and actions can lead you to a positive life. What is good for you is also good for society, and vice versa. Jainism considers non-violence to be the highest form of religion. So why be violent? So this is really the religion which can be said religion in true sense. The particular sect are not religion; they are just meant for practicing religion, but they themselves are not religion in that sense. Now, why we need such kind of non-violence in present time? Just this is the spiritual which I have said why we are following non-violence so strictly. But here we can say that non-violence is a call of time. The religion preached by then all the Jain thinkers is purely spiritual, with self-knowledge as the starting point and self-realization is the final end. And this principle has one of the main implications is that the principle of equality and comparison of the will and vow of others with those of oneself are powerful remedies for the pollution of environment. So when we learned this principle that all souls are equal and the pain and pleasure of oneself is not different from the pain and pleasures of other people, if we could understand this thing, then we can be very much conscious about the environment even, because all the environmental elements which we find, they are also having some kind of life. So the denial of the existence of the 6 classes of beings, the 5 immobiles, earth, water, fire, air, and plants, and the mobile from 2 to 5 sense living beings, ones will be tantamount to denial of the existence of the self, said Mahavir. So in the first scripture, which is called Acharan, in which Mahavir clearly speaks that you have to respect even water, even earth, even fire, air, and plants. What about the animals and human beings? They must be given proper respect. And why it is so? Because your life is completely dependent on all these elements and supports of other human beings or your fellow beings. If you are violating any one of them, you are violating yourself. Your existence is going into danger because of the violence of other living beings. So today we are perceiving what is happening because of this corona time. And what we say, should I make it full? Yeah. So one cannot safeguard one's own existence by obliterating the existence of others. One cannot be aware of one's own existence by denying the existence of others. Violence itself is a sort of non-awareness, or the result of the latter. Non-violence consists in the awareness of one's own existence along with the existence of others. This awareness is developed by comparing the will and vow of others with oneself in the concept of non-violence. So the principle of non-violence cannot be adequately comprehended without knowing the ways and means to violence. This is the reason for an elaborate description of possessiveness and non-possessiveness in the Jain scriptures. So yeah, so the second concept of which we have to understand very well is that what is the main cause of violence? It is our tendency of possessiveness. We want to get more and more money. We want to get more land. We want to get more and more power or positions. And because of that, we are violating, we are launching wars against some other countries or violating people, killing people, innocent people. So possessiveness is the main cause of violence, and we have to understand this main cause and try to control how we can control this possessive tendency, which is lying and which is inherent in all human beings. So the principal cause of violence is possessiveness, and modern economics encourages violence by prescribing attachment to wealth. Mahavir, on the contrary, preached the concept of non-violence, non-attachment towards the property. So yes, someone can get wealth and property if he is using right means and not violating other people's, but that money should also be used for the welfare of humanity or society or community, and not just for personal happiness and personal luxury. Attachment-dominated enterprises are opined as the foundation of social development. Acceptance of this partial opinion as a complete truth has resulted in the spread of violence and terrorism. Detachment-dominated activities also can provide base for social welfare. This later gives rise to a new angle of reason. It is true that the exclusively attachment-dominated attitude promotes competitions, and while what we see, this is a in between. This getting stuck. Okay. So it is true that the exclusive attachment dominated attitude promotes competition and violence. The exclusive detachment dominated attitude falls short of fulfilling the social needs. So what can be the best way to follow non-violence if we are looking for social development and prosperity, happiness, along with the peace? So the society therefore can be governed by what is meant between the two extreme attitudes for fostering balanced harmony and peace, avoiding the devastation caused by violence. Mahavir therefore gave the philosophy of non-acquisition, which was not based on the needs of growing population. He propounded the philosophy of non-acquisition and restraining one's will, keeping in view the human psyche and the results of accumulation of wealth. Mahavir was not opposed to meeting the primary needs of the rapidly growing population, but his opposition was to the ideology of unrestrained ambition and its adverse effects on society and globe, which we are perceiving today. In the present economic situations, we are finding that the richer are becoming richer and the poor are becoming more poor. So this kind of things are taking place. We have to be very much clear why we are facing this kind of social disparities and reactive violence. Modern society has largely succeeded in eliminating death by starvation, but accumulation of wealth by a handful of people has compelled a large majority to live in poverty. Excessively rich people also have their own problem in that they have to pass their time in perpetual mental tension, fear, and terror. So those who are looking for becoming more richer and want to get the whole wealth of the world in their hands, they are also not free from tensions and miseries. Now, what can be the best way to minimize the personal ownership, and what kind of changes we have to bring in our lifestyle, which can help us to be more and more non-violent and at the same time prosperous and happy and peaceful. So humanity has not yet succeeded in finding a way of life that could satisfy the primary needs of all and simultaneously mitigate the inhuman cruelty. A byproduct of excessive acquisition of wealth, it will perhaps never be feasible to find out the way without delimiting personal ownership. Availability of goods is limited. Consumers' demands are unlimited and their desires are vaster still. We have to arithmetic that can induce balance. So we know that nature has some limitations and our greed has no limit. It is like the space, unlimited space. So how we can make balance between these two? This is why Mahavir, keeping the truth in view, proclaimed that what is most dreadful is that man has focused his attention exclusively on acquisition of goods. Modern man has equated his mental health with consumerism. The root cause of the problem of violence is of tying up the sense of mindness with things. Yes, we need things. We need some material comforts and pleasures and things, but it doesn't mean that we have to be attached to them or we have to think that we are only the person who can enjoy all those, have right to enjoy all these things and not other people. So the truth, however, is that things do not belong to anybody. The attempt at denying this truth breeds violence. Okay. And we have already seen in this corona period how many people have left this world without taking anything with them, whatever they have tried to accumulate it in their lifetime. Declared Mahavir, do not rest satisfied with striking only at foliage and flowers of violence, but also strike hard at the very root of it. Violence varies proportionately with the sense of mindness. The deeper the sense of mindness, the intense the outburst of violence. To control the sense of mindness needs a complete change in lifestyle. Mahavir has given that lifestyle in his ethical principle of 10 anuvratas. So if you know what the 10 small vows which have been prescribed for a householder, those all the 12 vows have certain limit, certain types of rules and regulation. Because of that, one must be very much what we say limited in his desires, in his accumulations, in using the material things, or in using the nature even. Now, very important principle which Mahavir has given in the field of cultural unity, and that is the Anikantavad, how people can understand each other and can be non-violent to each other, can be respectful to others' views. So that is Anikant. So this is Anikant is nothing, it is a kind of non-violence in thought. As an upholder of dualism of self and non-self, Jainism has propounded non-absolutism. Knowledge of the self is not complete without the knowledge of the non-self, nor is the latter achieved without former. The knowledge of both in their completeness is therefore a vital necessity. And that's why Jainism is known as a dualistic philosophy, because it doesn't say that there is only one supreme reality out of which everything is coming out. There are at least two minimum realities. One is living, another one is non-living. And we must accept that with the interaction of these two realities, the whole entire universe is coming into being. Each reality is multi-dimensional. And the second thing which we have to understand very deeply is that each reality is multidimensional and therefore cannot be comprehended from one angle. So most of the philosophical traditions or religious traditions, they think that what they have known or what they know or preach, that is only the final truth and no other. In spite of knowing truth in totality, one cannot express it without relative approach. The second, Anikant has given the view that no, truth is multidimensional and you can see it from many different angles. From one angle, what you see that may be true, but what others are perceiving that may also be true. Try to understand from which angle what they are perceiving and why they are perceiving. So and another important principle Mahavir has given that stands for a kind of non-violence in your speech. In spite of knowing truth in totality, one cannot express it without relative approach. So in this particular principle of Shadavad, Mahavir says that it is there, though what you are knowing that may be from one angle, but that truth can also be explained in various ways. So there is no one way of explaining the truth. There are many different ways to explain this one and the same truth. So that is the emphasis of Shadavad. Generally, one can know and express only one aspect of the truth at a time and not even choose. Hence, a one-sided view, that is called a Naya, is also true if it does not deny other views related to other aspects of the same truth. So Jainism also believes that it is not necessary that we can see the truth from many different angles or from all other different angles. But if we are perceiving from one angle and we want to stick to that, that is also good. And that cannot be said that it is wrong. But yes, you should not deny, at least you should not reject other views which have been taken by some other different traditions or schools of thought. You can be neutral to them. You should not speak against to them. But yes, you can be stick to your one particular view, which you think that most appropriate for you. To live with peace in multicultural society and to see truth in broader spectrum, there is no other way than Anikantavad, Shadvad, and Naivad. So you can see that how Mahavir has given very practical approach about the truth, about the speech, and also about the particular views which we are following. Now, I want to conclude my discussion in the way that in order to bring home all these truths, Mahavir repeatedly declared, know the supreme religion. The supreme religion is Ahimsa. There is no particular name for such kind of religion. You can name it Islam, you can name it Jain, you can name it Buddha. It doesn't affect the core principle, core teaching of nonviolence. So we have to first understand that sects are just promoting non-violence. They are not for fighting or making any kind of discrimination in society or creating any kind of hatred in the mind of people. They are meant for promoting non-violence, universal love, universal compassion, or you can say respect to all living beings. So that is the main core of all religion or religious practices. It is only the perennial, permanent, and eternal religion according to Mahavir. In order to understand Ahimsa, the second truth which Mahavir says is that know thyself, and know that all souls are equal. And second thing, he says that you should not think that you are only the living beings on the earth and you have only the right. Other living beings are also equal to you. To kill others means to kill thyself. So it is very big thing which he has said in the first canon Acharang Sutra, that if you are thinking to killing other living beings, you are not just killing others, you are killing yourself. You are also getting same kind of karmic particles which can cause death in next, if not in this life. So the essence of soul is consciousness and not materiality. You should not go for material things and violate life of some innocent living beings. Money and all material gains are for life, but life is not for them. This philosophy of Jainism has given a new turn to the science of ethics and advanced thought in the direction of peace, prosperity, harmonious living, and sustainable development with perfection of self. So with this, again, to all the organizing Iqbal for inviting for this particular talk. And if somebody has any questions, they can ask.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Samaniji. I really appreciate that. So I think with that, what we'll do is we'll move on to Professor Zohaib Ahmed, who will be the discussant for the lecture. So I'll ask Professor Zohaib to show his camera. Turn on the camera. All right, perfect. All right, and I will place the spotlight. All right, Professor. So Professor Ahmed is a professor at Islamia University in Bahawalpur. He is an assistant professor in the Faculty of Islamic Learning, and his areas of interest are religious conversion, Reform Judaism, and Muslim theology. And he's currently working on a translation for a textbook on Jainism as well in Urdu. So we're very honored to have Professor Ahmed, and I'll turn it over to you, sir.
In the name of Allah, who is most kind and merciful. Let me start by thanking Dr. Iqbal Akhtar Saab for arranging this wonderful series of lectures, which are equally beneficial, I must say, for both students and faculty. I should also thank Dr. Samaniji, Pragya. I don't know whether I have pronounced it good enough or not, but thank you very much, madam, for your informative lecture. Your explanation of Mahabharata provided a thorough understanding, at least to me, of the essence of Jaina religion. Yes, we know that human acts of violence have accounted over 100 million murders in the 20th century. In all major world religions, there are ethical systems that suggest alternatives to human aggression. Jainism is also one of those religions about which we know very little in Pakistan, as was the case of West. Thanks to the Jaina community settled in the USA, UK, Germany, and elsewhere, because of them and the outstanding works of scholars like Herman Jacobi, there is now some clear pictures of Jains in the West. But this is not the case with Pakistan. For example, it is my first time that I am attending a lecture on Jainism given by a Jain scholar. There are a couple of reasons for that. For example, in Pakistan, study of other religions did not gain much appreciation until the recent years. In the past, we have just one active department of study of other religions in the International Islamic University of Islamabad, from where I have also graduated. Now the Islamia University of Bahawalpur, where currently I am serving, also opened the Department of World Religions and Interfaith Harmony. We have started our first batch of BA students. Other universities in Pakistan like Allama Iqbal Open University, the University of Punjab, Federal Urdu University, also they will offer courses to the study of other religions. But what will be taught in those courses is another important questions. There is a dearth of academic books on world religions in Urdu, the lingua franca of Pakistan. The situation is worse in the case of Jainism. For example, might try to find books in Urdu on Jainism resulted in nothing but a complete disappointment. This is exactly why Pakistani students did not study much about Jainism. We do not write much on Jainism. Our students are not ready to work on Jainism because they know there will be nothing available in Urdu. This is exactly why I think even in the International Islamic University, Jainism is not taught as a separate subject. We learned it combined with Buddhism and Hinduism. Take another case, for example. There is a Jaina temple, I think of Parsvanath in Multan, a city in the South Punjab of Pakistan. If we ask locals about that temple, most of them won't able to even differentiate whether is it a Jain temple or a Hindu temple. If someone identify it as a Jain temple, for him Jainism is just a religion or even a sect invented in India by Mahavir. However, as we know, it is not the case, at least for Jains. They consider it the oldest religion of India or even of the world. Mahavir for them was the 24th Tirthankar of Jainism. He was the successor of Parsavanath and spread the message of Rishabhnath, the very first Tirthankar. And if we talk about the pre-partition period, I mean the partition that resulted in the modern India and Pakistan, there were Jains and Muslims living side by side. Thanks to online Jain libraries, which contributed about 10 to 15 books in Urdu on Jainism. From these books, we can trace that in Sialkot, for example, a city of Punjab near Kashmir, there was a Jain community living in harmony with Muslims. Jain books used to be written there. An account of, I think, a Jaina nun Parvati ji, it was written by Lala Panna Lal. It specially talks about the concept of Ahimsa in Jainism and Islam. Lala Panna Lal tries to show that how Jains and Muslims share this very concept of Ahimsa, but not in a way that Jain thinks. However, now works like these are extinct or about to extinct. It is not just the extinction of mere books, but as I think it is the extinction of the idea which was bringing the world together. Given the situation, now you can understand the importance of this informative lecture for Pakistani students. I hope there will be many more to come as well. As the representative of the Islamia University of Bahawalpur, I assure our complete cooperation in this respect. I will not take more time. I have a question to ask, but I also see that the chat is scrolling down, so I copyright my question. And thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, Professor Ahmed. And thank you again so much, Samaniji. So our first question comes from Dr. Dayab Gilani. So he has a question regarding the idea of non-retaliation in Jainism. So that if someone does you harm, that you don't respond in kind to that violence. So can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Okay. So it is a good question. Yeah, as I have already explained, that there are two types of violence. One is what we say necessary violence, and other one is unnecessary. So if someone is attacking on you, and if he is not ready to understand the language of violence, then Jains can also take some violent action against this kind of person to defend his own existence, to defend his family, to defend his nation. So that comes under the necessary violence, but it is also a kind of violence. And the householders cannot be free from such kind of violence if the situation comes before him like that. Okay. So yeah, we try to make the violent person understand that why they should not follow such kind of a path of violence. But all people are not ready to understand these things. They are just for killing others and taking all what they want. So in that situation, Jains can also take violent action. And that's why you could see in the history of Jainism, there were so many kings, so many soldiers, and also chief of army, big army, which were Jains in the history. And all the Tirthankars, they were all from royal family. They were either kings or princes. So to defend the territory, sometimes they had to fight with the other people, those who were attacking on them. But Jains do not take any kind of initiative for attacking on any other people who are innocent, and just for taking their lands or property. This is not completely prohibited. This is completely what we say unnecessary violence, which is not good in the case of Jain people. So you would see in the history, Jains never attacks on any other innocent people.
Thank you, Samaniji. So the next question comes from Sarah Halverson. So she has a question regarding thinking about nonviolence and the current challenges that we have in the world regarding climate change, thinking about the environment. What is kind of the perspective? How do we apply the idea of nonviolence to living sustainably and dealing with climate change?
Okay. So Jains are very much emphatic on changing the lifestyle according to the need of time. Okay, though Jainism has already given these rules and regulations that you have to honor this respect of nature even. And when you will start reading the scripture Acharang, that is the first text which was spoken by Mahavir, Mahavir doesn't talk about violence of human beings at outset of the text. He talks about the nature, that you should not minimize the water, you should not minimize the other natural resources and animal beings. So be non-violent in your lifestyle in day-to-day life. Then until you leave that kind of restrained or non-violent way of living, these things cannot be controlled, because it is because of our wrong lifestyle or materialistic outlook, these things are resulting. So we have to be non-violent in our day-to-day behavior, not just going into the temple or what we say mosaic, or just we are praying to God and thinking that, oh, we are non-violent. This is not the just way of living a non-violent life. You have to be very much self-restraint in your day-to-day dealings, even in business, even in your diet, even in your daily routine activities, how you can minimize violence and can respect the nature and all other living beings. So that is very much necessary, because we are using so many such kind of things which are damaging the environment, which are responsible for this kind of climate change. So until and unless we learn how to live according to nature and what we say need of the time, it is very difficult to control these things.
Okay, we have another question from another professor, Karabi Sen. So she has two questions. The first question is, what is the motivation behind Ahimsa? So are you trying to be nonviolent just to stop karma? Or can Ahimsa be a type of love?
Ahimsa can be a type of vow.
Love, L-O-V-E.
Okay.
So are you doing
Yeah.
Ahimsa just to have a better rebirth, or is it a type of love that you do Ahimsa?
Okay. So there are both types of motives. If you want to live a peaceful life, it is necessary that you have to accept to give regards to other. Okay. And if you want to live a healthy life, then also you have to respect nonviolence. And if you are looking for liberation or better life, then also you are bound to follow this principle of nonviolence. So nonviolence doesn't mean only that non-killing. I have already said that it is respect to all. And if you want to make good relations, international relationships, then also you have to be very much nonviolent. So nonviolence is not just confined to your spiritual growth. It is very much needed in your day-to-day life relations, whether it is international relations, interfaith relations, relations with fellow beings, relations with any other beings. It is a kind of a universal love. But though love is sometimes taken in the sense of physical sense, that's why we use non-violence, and non-violence is translated in the sense of universal friendliness. Okay, so in Jainism we say universal friendliness. You have to be friend to all, each and every component of nature, including human beings and animal beings.
Okay, the second question then she had is, what is the connection between Ahimsa and Syadvada philosophy? I think it's Anakantavad, basically. What is the connection between these two philosophies in Jainism?
Okay, so most of, in day-to-day life, in eating, drinking, cleaning of houses, etc., we are committing little bit or very limited violence, but we are committing violence mentally. Okay, so we are thinking about killing others, though it is not necessary that we are killing physically, but we are thinking that I want to impose my idea to all other people, to all other countries. We want to impose our culture on others. So this is creating this kind of violence, the big wars between the one nation and other nation. We want to capture the land of others. We want to capture the resources of other countries, or we want to rule other countries. So this kind of mentality can be changed only when we understand that truth is a multidimensional. All other different ideas, cultures, they are the beauty and not something against us. They are trying to analyze the truth from different angles. If we want to understand reality, truth in true sense, then we have to be very open-minded. We have to be very much sympathetic. We have to be very much respectful to other ideas so that we can know the truth from different other angles. So the most of the wars and the fights, even in the domestic life or in civil life or in between two countries, they are cultural fightings actually. We are trying to impose our ideas on others, and because of that we are going into violence, which is quite unnecessary. So Anikant can help you that truth has so many dimensions. If you are trying to understand truth in true sense, then you have to see that what other angles are thinking and how they are true, and how we can be friendly to each other, how we can share our knowledge to others, and how we can learn from others. So Anikant is giving you a very open platform to understand others' traditions, other ideologies, other cultures, and how you can be peaceful, non-violent to them and can learn something good from them. So this is a kind of non-violence. cultural non-violence. Okay.
Okay. So there was another question regarding the idea of particularly the monks who sort of are exposed. So the question is that to what I think the larger question then is to what extent do you engage in nonviolence to the point that it is either uncomfortable or it's very hard for human life, right? I think the most extreme example, of course, is the fasting until death. But for the average Jain, where do you find the medium between nonviolence and having a happy and healthy life?
Okay. See, your question is having so many things.
Yeah.
What is the main point I want to know?
Yeah, so the main point is that for the average Jain,
Yes.
how do you know where to how do you make the determination about how much nonviolence you will have in your life? So how do you know how much, like say that I'm an average Jain living in Miami, how much violence is acceptable in my life?
Okay.
How do you, yeah, does that make
Okay.
sense?
So yes, though I have said that there are 3 types of violence which the householders cannot be what we say free of them, and that is business. First, you have to make business to survive, to earn the money for your necessities. And in those business also, Jains have said, especially Mahavir has said, that 15 types of business are completely prohibited, in which you are producing something which is harmful to humanity. For example, if you are producing weapons, it is not good for humanity. Okay. So you should not involve in such kind of business which are meant just for killing some human beings or some people. So similarly, wine productions, mining, burning the forest, all are against nature or humanity, or polluting your pure consciousness. So those kind of business should be prohibited. They should not be taken by especially the Jain people. Okay, so just they have to focus how they can be non-violent in their business. What kind of business they have to do in which there is no violence, either no violence or very less violence. So that kind of business can be chosen by the Jain people. So business, violence in business is a necessity of, you can say, for survival. But in that also, Jain people have to be very conscious, very careful in choosing the business in which there should not be maximum or mass killing or violence any kind. At least the 5 sense living beings should not be killed in their business dealings. And second is to survival. If you have to survive, you need food, you need drinks, you need house, and for creating building, you are also committing some kind of violence, but the householders cannot be free from that kind of necessary violence. So you have to minimize those also. Jainism says that you have to fix that how much houses you need, how much other properties you need. So you have to fix the limit. And also in personal life, you have to put so much limits so that you can consume less and less things which are just necessary for your survival and not unnecessary. Okay. So that can be. And last one is that if you have to defend your life, if someone is attacking, so you may be bound to take violent action against that just for your survival, for your defense, but you should not attack on any innocent people or unnecessary. So that is the ideal life of Jains. And you can see there are 12 small vows which have been prescribed for the householders, that how they can be limited in their day-to-day dealings, which is involving some kind of violence. So how they can be non-violent in their life, to which extent they can be non-violent. So that has been given, clear prescriptions have been given for that, how they can be righteous, honest in their business, and legal. And next is how they can limit their day-to-day other activities in which they are traveling. Everything is everything must be limited and not unlimited or without purpose. So that kind of lifestyle has been given, and that's why Jains are, you can see Jains are very happy people. They are very prosperous. They are very peaceful, non-violent. They are flourishing in all the other different countries, even in the US, because of their non-violent and peaceful behavior. And they are very much conscious that how they can be free from violence in their day-to-day life, in their business, in their behavior, and their dealings. So this is the, you can say, this is the benefit of non-violence, okay? All Jains are not looking for liberation, okay? But they want to live a good life, and at least they want to follow non-violence in their day-to-day life and relations. Yes.
Great. So we have two more questions, and I think then we'll wrap it up. Professor Gilani has another question regarding this idea of, again, regarding the environment. So would you say that Jainism is the most environmentally considerate religion?
Yes. So yes, it is absolutely. You can see that all religions are giving very good teachings, but no religion has gone so deep into nature, that how nature is having life. And if you are using a single drop of water, you are killing innumerable microbes, okay, which are the lives of water. Water itself has life. And in one drop, you find innumerable souls, microbes, or water lives. So Jains are very eco-friendly, very eco-friendly. They are very much environmental. And so they understand that how much plants we have to use, how much water we have to use, how much earth we have to dig, or unnecessary. They do not want to violate any kind of natural resources. They do not want to. So they are very much conscious about the nature in their day-to-day life, not just going into temple and praying and chanting the mantra, but in day-to-day life, they are thinking that, oh, if we are wasting water, we are killing so many lives and we are causing so many bad karmas. Okay. So as soon as they could come to know, they become very conscious about it. Okay. So these teachings have been given from very childhood, that please don't waste water, don't touch plants, don't cut trees, don't pick flowers, don't step on grass. So these teachings have been given to each and every householders, and the ascetics are most eco-friendly. They are living examples, how they are living the eco-friendly lifestyle, how they are taking minimum from the nature and not directly from nature. Whatever they are taking, that is almost non-violent. If the food is prepared for them, they don't take. If food is prepared for you and you offer, then only they can take, because they do not want to take anything which is violating in their name, okay, which is cooked in their name, because that also involves some kind of violence. So they are completely eco-friendly, and the Jain people are also very conscious about it. They are taking so many small vows just to avoid the violence of nature.
Okay. The last question we have talks about thinking about, you're coming to us from India, and there's also quite a bit of violence in India, and unfortunately there's also tension between India and Pakistan. How do you think Jain ideas of Ahimsa could be translated into creating a more peaceful India, and also perhaps also a more peaceful relationship between India and Pakistan?
Okay, so see, as the professor, Ahmed, he was talking about Jainism is rarely known in Pakistan universities. Or so first thing we have to understand that people do not know the difference between violence and non-violence. First, they must be given the education of non-violence. And I would prefer if Pakistan University in which you are organizing the lecture, it can have some MOU with JVBI, and you can start giving training of non-violence to the people, because the people are innocent. Most of the people, those who are involved in crimes or violence, sometimes they don't know what they are doing actually. So ignorance first be removed from the mind of the people, and for that you have to start providing teachings of non-violence, training of non-violence. So our mind is the main battlefield where we start first making planning for fighting with others. Okay, it must be very much clean and clear what we are going to do. Second is that you have already said that Jains and Muslims were used to live with peace in Pakistan in some time, okay? And I would say that Pakistan was the part of India, no? And in the time of Lord Rishabh, the Jainism was most flourished in Pakistan. Takshashila was the main, kingdom of the first son of Lord Rishabh, whose name, second son, whose name was Bahubali. Okay, so Takshashila was his main kingdom. Okay, Lahore, Kandahar, you had a lot of literature of Jainism. I know because of these political reasons and so many unnecessary violence and wars, many good properties have been destroyed by the people of that particular countries. Okay, but now we have to reestablish relation with India, and Pakistan should not think that they are separate people. They were the part of India. Why they are fighting with India, which is their motherland? Okay, they are the part of India in ancient time or before partition. Okay, so they should see that they are coming from India. They are part of India. India is the motherland, and why India has given the land Pakistan separately, even though he is keeping so many Muslims in India. No, he is providing the shelter to Muslim community and giving most of the resources of India to Muslim community. Even though we are fighting, so it is not good thing. We have to understand that why we are fighting. Who is taking with them after death? Everything is left behind, okay? And nobody can control on other lands for longer time. You can see the history, okay? Sikandar Mahan has kept ruled on so many, and he fought with so many countries and looted so many properties. What happened to him? He died in the way, okay? Nobody is taking with them. So we have to understand these lofty ideas of spirituality, religion. If we are religious people in true sense, how we can live with peace, unity, that we have to understand. We are human beings. We have so developed advanced mind. We are not fighting. We are not animals. Even animals do not fight with each other without necessity. Okay, if somebody is hungry, then some living being is hungry, or animals is hungry, then only he attacks on others. So why we are human beings, we have all resources, we have human mind. Why we are fighting with others? What we want to take from others, and what we will gain by violating or killing other innocent beings. So we don't understand, but everybody should think of it that they are human beings. They have very high goal of their life. So they are so educated. They should understand the pains of other and rights of other and respect the rights of other. Okay, and how we can be more peaceful and prosperous, that we have to plan with other countries or other people, not for fighting or killing or disturbing other people or countries.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Samaniji. This is really a great lecture, and I'm glad that you were able to connect to scholars here in Pakistan as well. And we had more than 50 attendees, so there was a lot of interest. And I think there's a professor at Punjab University, Professor Gilani, who would definitely like to hit up the MOU with JVBI. So I'll put you in touch with him, and you can work with him as well. And I think there's a lot of interest here in learning about Jainism, and we hope initially we'll start virtually, and then hopefully in person we can have exchanges between both countries as well.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Samaniji. Really appreciate your time. Professor Zohaib Ahmed, thank you so much for hosting us through Islamia University in Bahawalpur, and we'll see you also next week. Next week's lectures are going to be focusing on other religious traditions as well here in Pakistan. So before we end, I just wanted to give Professor Ahmed a chance to say anything he would like before we close out the session for this week, and then we'll start back on Monday. And the link to join is in the chat, go.fiu.edu/COIL_REL. Professor Ahmed.
I just want to thank you all people, and especially Madam Samaniji and you, for arranging this wonderful lecture. This is all from my side.
Okay, and Samaniji, would you like to say anything?
Okay, yes. So I'm very much thankful to the organizers of both the universities who have organized this lecture series. And especially I'm thankful to Professor Iqbal Akhtar. I have been working with him from last almost 6 months or more than that.
Right.
Before I was not in the contact, though he was working he is working in the same department in which I am working, but the personal touch was not so much. But after this, before we started the idea of a conference, from that time, we are very much close. And I have seen that Iqbal Akhtar is having the very kind soul, very pure soul. He is so nice and really generous person. And I said to him that you should start training of nonviolence in all Islamic countries, and how we can organize one conference for that special purpose. So this is the good time that the universities of Pakistan, both the universities are interested to make MOU or relations with the Indian institutes for this purpose. So if it will be implemented or materialized, I will be very happy to see that every year we are organizing one international conference, and we have contact with 192 countries, almost all the countries of the world, just for the purpose of nonviolence and peace action. And we are keeping all the times a very general theme of which is the need of the current time for entire globe. And that conference is organized every year. So that conference can also be organized in Pakistan this year.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and all the Islamic countries must participate in that conference especially.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you so much, Samaniji. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving this wonderful opportunities and very good interactions we have had in this particular lecture. So thanks to all the participants, all the organizers, and Iqbal.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us, and thank you for our universities in Pakistan, Punjab University, Islamia University in Bahawalpur, UMT, all the universities, and have a wonderful week and weekend, and we'll see you next week. Okay, take care. All right, goodbye.